Hello everyone, I'm Charlotte, and welcome to Read Insight. In this era of information overload and pervasive anxiety, we seem to be constantly searching for a shortcut to success, or perhaps a kind of wisdom that allows us to find our footing in this uncertain world. The book I want to share with you today has a title that might sound a bit cliché, perhaps even reminding you of those purely utilitarian bestsellers found in airport bookstores. It is Napoleon Hill's classic, Think and Grow Rich. However, please do not be misled by these 4 simple words. In my 20 years of reading and cultural observation, I can assure you that this is absolutely not just a tool for making money. Rather, it is a psychological treatise on human potential, a philosophical guide on how to reshape reality through belief. Try to imagine for a moment that we have traveled back in time to 1908. You are a young, fledgling reporter with no money to your name, and you have the opportunity to interview Andrew Carnegie, the richest steel magnate in the world at that time. You think this is just an ordinary interview, but suddenly, Carnegie issues a challenge to you. He asks if you would be willing to spend 20 years of your life interviewing 500 of the world's most successful entrepreneurs and leaders without receiving a single penny in salary, solely for the purpose of summarizing a set of success principles that ordinary people can replicate. It sounds absolutely insane, doesn't it? But Napoleon Hill accepted this challenge. And the book we are discussing today is the result of those 25 years of painstaking effort, distilled from the lives of giants like President Roosevelt, Edison, and Ford. The background of this book's creation is, in itself, a legendary story of persistence and conviction. Before we dive into the core of this book, I want to ask you a question. Do you truly believe that your thoughts can change your material life? This book proposes a concept that was considered very avant-garde, perhaps even mystical at the time, which is that whatever the mind can conceive and believe, it can achieve. The author is not preaching magic, but rather exploring an ultimate psychological state. He repeatedly emphasizes a phrase in the book called burning desire. Please note, we are not talking about a faint hope like, it would be nice if I had money, but a longing so intense it involves burning one's bridges. The book tells a famous story of an ancient general who led his troops across the sea to attack an enemy country. Upon landing, he ordered all the ships to be burned, telling his soldiers that they now had only 2 options, victory or death. This determination to place oneself in a desperate situation to survive is exactly what Hill defines as desire. In modern society, we often leave ourselves too many ways out, too many plan Bs, which actually scatters our mental energy and prevents us from reaching the peak in any single field. However, having desire alone is not enough. The most fascinating part of this book lies in its exploration of the subconscious mind, or what the book calls autosuggestion. This actually aligns quite well with the concepts in modern neuro-linguistic programming. Hill believes that our subconscious is like a faithful executor that cannot distinguish between reality and imagination. If you tell yourself every day, I am tired, I am poor, or I can't do it, your subconscious will execute these instructions to the letter, making you truly tired, poor, and incompetent. Conversely, the book suggests a concrete method. Write down your goals, read them aloud morning and night, and while reading, vividly simulate in your mind the scenario of having achieved the goal, feeling the joy and excitement of it. This might sound a bit like tricking the brain, but from a neuroscience perspective, this is exactly how we reshape neural pathways, causing the brain's reticular activating system to start filtering for information that helps you succeed. It is just like when you decide to buy a certain brand of car, and suddenly you notice that car everywhere on the street. The opportunities were always there, but previously your brain chose to ignore them. Of course, the road to dreams is never smooth. There is a classic, even heartbreaking case in this book called 3 Feet from Gold. The story tells of a gold miner who worked hard digging in a mine for a long time and finally found a vein of gold, so he bought expensive machinery to extract it. However, the vein suddenly disappeared. He persisted in despair for a while but finally decided to give up, selling the machinery as scrap metal to a junkman. This junkman was clever. He hired a mining engineer to survey the land. The result? The gold vein was actually just 3 feet away from where the miner had stopped digging. Those 3 feet became a lifelong regret for many. Hill uses this story to tell us that failure is often a cunning trickster. It loves to test our will with setbacks just moments before success arrives. Often, what we think is a dead end is actually the darkest moment before the dawn. This reminds us that in our modern careers or entrepreneurial journeys, when you feel like you can't hold on any longer, perhaps you are truly just one final push away from that breakthrough. Beyond individual cultivation, this book introduces a highly forward-looking concept, the Mastermind group. Hill observed that no great leader fights alone. Henry Ford built an automobile empire not because he knew every mechanical detail, but because he knew how to connect with a group of people who possessed specialized knowledge. A mastermind group is not simply a meeting or social gathering. It refers to 2 or more people in a spirit of harmony, contributing their strengths toward a common goal. When this mental connection occurs, it generates a third force that is greater than the sum of individual powers. This is a huge inspiration for us today. In this cloud-based era that emphasizes collaboration and connection, your circle often determines your altitude. Should we not also examine our own environments to see if we are walking with people who inspire our potential and support us, or if we are surrounded by a group full of complaints and negative energy? Reading up to this point, you might think this book is all about achieving worldly success, but in fact, the end of Think and Grow Rich elevates to a discussion on overcoming fear. Hill lists the 6 basic fears of humanity: poverty, criticism, ill health, loss of love, old age, and death. He believes these fears are the greatest shackles hindering our spiritual freedom. A person whose heart is filled with fear cannot hear the voice of intuition and cannot utilize creativity. Therefore, true riches do not merely refer to the numbers in a bank account, but to a richness of spirit, a freedom from fear, and a calmness and confidence in mastering one's own destiny. When we can control our minds and are no longer swayed by external environments, we truly possess the key to opening the door to wealth. Finally, I want to share the deepest impression this book left on me. In these volatile times, we often feel powerless, thinking the economy is bad or opportunities are slim. But Napoleon Hill told us over 80 years ago that the only thing in this world over which we have absolute control is our thoughts. We cannot control the weather, we cannot control the stock market, and we cannot even control the opinions of others, but we can control our attitude when facing these things. This power of control is the most precious gift bestowed upon us. So, this book is actually an invitation, inviting you to take back the reins of your life and write your own script. That brings us to the end of today's sharing. If you look back now, have you ever had a 3 feet from gold moment in your life where you gave up too soon? Or do you currently have a burning desire in your heart that you want to achieve no matter what? This book is not just about money. It is about how to live this life without regrets. I'm Charlotte, and I hope today's content has brought a slightly different perspective and inspiration to your life. I look forward to meeting you again in our next session of Read Insight.